Ever feel totally wiped after hanging with people? Your friends are off to the next event and you're like, no, I need a blanket and a dark room immediately. If you know this is you and you love your alone time, but have also secretly wondered if there's something wrong with you, you're in the right place. In this video, we're gonna break down common misconceptions of introversion and most importantly, how to stop making yourself wrong for asking for what you need. Because real confidence isn't about forcing yourself to look and work like someone else. It's about meeting yourself where you are over and over and over again. Before we dive into the hacks, I wanna get a few things out of the way. Thing one, introverted does not equal shy. They are not the same thing. Shyness often lives in a space of social judgment. Introversion is about energy. It's not about liking or disliking people. It's about how you recharge. Introverts reset alone. Extroverts reset around people. Thing two, being introverted also doesn't mean that you're awkward, bad at conversation, or antisocial. Those things can overlap, but they're not the same. Thing three, introverted does not equal broken. We live in a world that praises people for being loud and outgoing and the life of the party. And we often tie those things to meaning that you're confident or socially healthy, whatever that means anyway. But that's just not true. The reality is that each of our systems operates completely uniquely, and being introverted is the same as liking tomatoes. No, weird example, but the reality is some people love tomatoes and some people don't. And liking them or not liking them doesn't mean anything about who you are as a person, your moral value, or your inherent worth. The same is true for being introverted. You either are or you aren't. And being so doesn't mean anything about who you are as a person. So if you've ever felt guilty for needing extra time or space, or wondered why you can't keep up with your extroverted friends, the next part is for you. Hack one is to observe yourself like a scientist and get to know your flavor of introversion. The first step in building confidence as an introvert is to get deeply curious about who you are, not only as a person, but specifically how you charge. These are the questions that I want you to ask yourself. What kind of social settings drain me the fastest? What types of interactions actually energize me? How much alone time do I really need? Are there people who light me up, others that totally zap me? I've learned from myself over the years, teaching a large class or doing something like going to an amusement park is actually not a problem. It doesn't seem to impact my energy more than other events. A small party with no structure, especially with people that I don't really know, energy gone in 2.5 seconds. You don't need to change your wiring. You just need to intimately know it and work with it. Hack two, and this is a big one. I want you to get skillfully adept at noticing your inner critic. If confidence feels hard, it might be because you are running an internal dialogue that is telling you that you are wrong. And more importantly, that your needs are wrong. So here's what I want you to do. You're gonna start by asking yourself these three questions. Do I ever feel guilty for needing time alone? Do I ever apologize for taking the time to recharge in a way that feels good to me? Do I silently judge myself for being too quiet or too sensitive? Those thoughts, it could be examples of your inner critic. So the next time that you catch those thoughts or catch yourself feeling that way, I want you to try this. You're gonna say those thoughts out loud, exactly as you hear them in your head. If you have a hard time hearing exact words, I want you to ask yourself this question. If you had to make someone else feel the way that you sometimes feel, what would you say to them? And then you're gonna say those words out loud because they are likely, or some version of them is likely living inside of you. And ask yourself, what is my response to that? If a stranger said this to me randomly on the side of the street, how would I respond? Hack three, you are going to define what support actually looks like for you. That part is key. Confidence isn't about doing more, it's about supporting more. Support equals safety. And the safer that I feel, the more that I'm able to be myself. And that is confidence. So here's how I want you to define your kind of support. You're gonna ask yourself, if you could define the perfect day, the perfect conversation, the perfect interaction, what would that look like? Then I want you to compare that to how things are happening right now. Not as a way to judge, but as another way to continue to get curious. You may realize that you actually need more time alone than you think that you do. You may realize that you actually really prefer one-on-one to small groups or large groups. Or maybe it's that you need more clarity on timing or who will be there or how many people will be there. Which brings us to hack 4, and that is to give yourself those things without apology. If we lived in a world that celebrated introversion the way that we celebrate extroversion, you wouldn't think twice about doing those things for yourself. So your job is to start to create that world. Once you've identified what you need, the next part is to actually grant it. Like a little genie in a bottle. No guilt, no justification, no over-explaining to try to make it okay. And I want you to go back to hack 2 if you start to hear more of those criticky voices popping up, or if you start to feel particularly bad about putting these new boundaries into place. And in case you needed a little reminder, you're not lazy, you're not weird, and you're definitely not broken. You're giving yourself the support that your system needs in a way that allows you to thrive, not just survive. And that is confidence in motion. Now we're at hack 5, and that is to rinse, repeat, and normalize. Remember that thought about if the world celebrated introverts in the same way that we celebrate extroverts, that none of what we're talking about would even be a big deal at all. It's not a big deal, by the way. The thing that I want you to remember here is that this process is ongoing. It never ends. You're not going to wake up one day and magically have the answer to every single situation or feel enormously confident in every single situation. But the more that you practice, over time, you'll realize that you speak up faster, or you begin to notice when things don't feel good for you. You say no with less guilt, and maybe even start to recover quicker from those social hangovers because you're doing what works best for you. In a lot of ways, everything that we've talked about today is like a muscle. Every time you practice them, even if it's not perfect, that muscle continues to get stronger. So what's the biggest thing that I want you to take away from everything that we've covered so far today? It's that there is literally nothing wrong with how you're built. You probably have a natural ability to observe and reflect and go deep in ways that maybe other folks don't, which means that you also need to recharge in ways that other folks don't. You don't need to force yourself to be more extroverted. You don't need to keep up with your loudest friend or apologize for wanting space. You need to learn and understand your unique system and then support yourself in that uniqueness. When you stop apologizing for your needs, something special happens. You don't just feel more confident, you feel free. It could be said that once you stop trying to change who you are to fit into the world, that you start changing how you show up in that same realm. Introversion isn't a flaw. It's not something that you overcome. It can absolutely be a superpower when you learn to use it. So the next time that you need to cancel plans, set a boundary, or ask for more time alone, I want you to remember this. It's not selfish, it's not broken, it's actually self-trust. That is the kind of confidence that sticks around. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video, and don't forget to speak your truth.